And we are back once again. Welcome back to the channel. Today it is time to once again talk about the Europa League. We have got 18 matches to cover for you today, including one match taking place tomorrow and then 17 matches taking place on Thursday night. If you want to see all of my predictions for this week's Champions League games, 9 today and 9 tomorrow, you can do so by clicking the link at the top of your screen right now, taking you to yesterday's video where we covered all 18 matches in the Champions League. And for those of you that are new around here, firstly, welcome to the channel. You make sure you are subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on tomorrow's video, which will be covering all 18 matches in the Europa Conference League. And whichever video you are on, please do consider dropping a like on the video if you do enjoy all of my prediction series. Let's head over to the prediction screen, or the first of the two prediction screens for today, where you will see that we have got some UEL results so far from this season. After match day 3, we are on 32 correct results out of 54 matches with 3 correct scores. So we're only one game worse off than what we are in the Champions League, which was 33 out of 54 with 3 correct scores. But going into today's round of Europa League predictions, I'm feeling a little bit confident. There are certainly some proper stinkers in there over the course of these matches, but I'm feeling a little bit confident today. Don't know why. Hopefully we're in for a good week. But without any further ado, let's get into it. The first match of the Europa League this week takes place tomorrow afternoon, and it is between 27th place Besiktas and 25th place Malmo. Now, Besiktas were finally able to get off the mark on match day 3 with an incredible 1-0 win away at Lyon. That said, Lyon had 30 shots in that match, had 3 XG, but the goalkeeper, Destanoglu, Besiktas' backup keeper, was able to pull off 8 saves. So fair play to him. He is the reason that they kept them in it, and then they were able to grab themselves the 1-0 win. However, Besiktas, in the form that they are still in, backed it up with back-to-back defeats in Turkey. Malmo, on the other hand, went down 1-0 to Olympiacos last time out. Going into this match, neither side realistically having any significant injuries or suspensions. Believe me, we're going to have a lot of injuries and a lot of suspensions going forward, but not in this match in particular. These two sides did actually meet in 2018, and on those 2 occasions, Malmo came out on top on both occasions. But, I mean, you are talking literally 6 years ago, so not too much to read into that. For me, with the form that the two sides are in, you would probably say that Malmo have got a pretty decent chance in this one. However, I just think Besiktas at home, realistically, they should be getting the win, which is why I am going for a 2-1 victory to the Turkish side. On to Thursday then, and you've got 9 kickoffs at 17:45, 5:45 on Thursday, and then you've got a further 8 at 8 o'clock. So we'll start off now with the remaining 9 matches in the early kickoffs, and this sees 9th place BODO Glimt taking on the absolute rock bottom side in the Europa League, 36th place Karabag. Now, BODO put in an incredible performance last time out, winning 2-1 away to Braga, which ruined my prediction because I did 1-1 for that game. Braga were the heavy favourites, and I said to all of you guys, don't rule out BODO Glimt. I'm going for a 1-1 draw. And BODO Glimt got a 94th minute winner to ruin my prediction, but not to the extent that it was that bad, because obviously I said don't rule out BODO Glimt, who ended up getting, of course, that win. Karabag so far have been well beaten by Spurs. They've been well beaten by AJAX. They have got 2 players suspended going into this one. I've got Romao and Jarakiliev, both out through suspension. To be fair to them, they're still well clear at the top of the Azerbaijani league, but against the league leaders in Norway, they've only really had one sort of game performance, so they've been doing themselves justice. They've conceded 6 in their last 2, have BODO Glimt. It has to be noted that as well. BODO Glimt, that's what I was just saying, BODO Glimt only had 1 win since their last round of matches and have conceded 6, whereas Karabag have actually won the last 2 without conceding. So in terms of momentum, in terms of form, Karabag will still feel confident, but again, it's the Azerbaijani league versus the Norwegian league. BODO Glimt have been playing better football in this Europa League. Realistically, I've got to go for them again. I'm going to go for 3-1. Karabag are normally good for a goal, but yeah, I just don't see Carabao getting anything out of this. This is probably their easiest opponents, but I still think BODO come out on top. Next up, it's Eintracht Frankfurt taking on Slavia Prague. 6 on 7 points versus 16th on 4 points. Now, Slavia have actually stood up for the Pragues. I spoke about Sparta Prague yesterday and how they let me down against Man City. Well, Slavia Prague actually didn't let me down. They've played some very good football so far. They drew with Ajax and only lost 1-0 to Bilbao. So it's not too bad on their part, whereas Frankfurt, you know, they've not been particularly great. They only beat RFS of Latvia 1-0 on Matchday 3. They did, however, win 7-2 at the weekend in the Bundesliga, and they now have a striker in Marmoush, who is the top goal contributor in the Bundesliga so far this season, which is quite impressive considering that he is tied at the top with Harry Kane of Bayern Munich. Slavia are missing a couple of players through injury, but not too significant losses for them. I think this is going to be a really interesting one. I expect Frankfurt to come out on top, but like I say, Slavia have been very, very well worth the points they've got so far in this competition. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory for Frankfurt. It was a toss-up between 1-0 and 2-0. Still think this is going to be a tight one, but I would expect the Germans at home to get the victory. Next up, we are off to Sweden to visit the Elves once again. It is Elfsborg taking on Braga. For Elfsborg, they sit 22nd in the table after narrow defeats to AZ Alkmaar and Galatasaray, but don't forget they did beat Roma on match day 2. They play Braga, who are just a couple of positions behind them, in 26th after that last-minute defeat to BODO Glimt that I already spoke about. Elfsborg, though, they are still way off it domestically at the moment. We've already spoken about Malmo in this video. Elfsborg are 18 points behind Malmo in the Swedish league this season and have not been performing great domestically since the last couple of matches, whereas Braga have won all of their last 3 matches since their defeat in the last round and have now got themselves up to 4th in the Portuguese league. They are going to be without Niakate through suspension. He was sent off in that defeat to BODO Glimt. But I just think, again, recent form going into this, I would expect this to be another tight affair. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to Braga, though. I think the form has just shifted for them over the last couple of weeks. I think if they can carry that into this game, they are going to get the result. Next up, it is FCSB. They currently sit in 7th and they are taking on Midtjylland, who are 13th. I might actually have that the wrong way around, but those are the 2 positions. It's 7th against 13th. There's only been 1 goal conceded so far by Midtjylland in this tournament, which is quite impressive for them because they normally concede a hell of a lot domestically. They actually conceded 5 at the weekend to title rivals Brøndby, whereas for FCFB, they finally had a bit of a reality check after 2 very good performances on matchday 1 and 2. They were hammered 4-0 by Rangers on matchday 3. So a little bit of a rude awakening for them, a little bit of a snap back to reality. But Midtjylland are a side that, even though they performed well, as I've just said, they've lost twice in a week to Brøndby in the Cup and 5-1 at home to Brøndby in the league domestically this weekend. They also have a hell of a lot of injuries and have one of their key midfielders, Emi Martinez, out through suspension. So, a lot of things working against Midtjylland. Their best performing player so far this season, Shimsir, is going to be out injured as well. And it is worth noting that FCFB are unbeaten in all of their last 6 games at home. That said, I can't ignore the 4-0 to Rangers. And if it was Midtjylland against Rangers, I'd be backing Midtjylland. So I'm going to still go for Midtjylland, but I'm going to respect FCFB to an extent. I'm only going to go for a 1-0 victory. If Midtjylland continue to defend the way they have in this competition, I don't see FCSB scoring. And I just think Midtjylland have enough quality to nick the result here, 1-0. On to what has to be considered the biggest fixture of possibly the night, certainly the early kickoffs. It is Galatasaray taking on Tottenham, the 5th place side in the Europa League and the top side in Turkey so far this season, taking on Tottenham Hotspur, who are 3 wins out of 3 and are 2nd in the table in the Europa League at the moment on goal difference to Lazio. Both of these teams are going to be full of confidence after impressive results at the weekend. So it's a really tough one to call. The real question marks are going to be around the fitness in Spurs' defence. Obviously, we know Van de Ven picked up the hamstring injury. He's not going to be available. Romero picked up what looked like it could be a bad foot injury. But to be fair, Tottenham have been making wholesale changes in this competition anyway, so it's unclear if Romero would have played regardless. Although this is probably Tottenham's toughest game in the competition so far. So it's going to be very interesting to see what sort of side Ange Postecoglou puts out. I think it's too early to suggest that Spurs go to Galatasaray and get the win. It's a very, very tough place to go to. Like I say, they are top of the Turkish league as well. They're 5th in the Europa League. I would still consider Tottenham the favourites, but I'm not confident enough to give them the win. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw here. Next up, it is Ludogorets, who currently sit goalless, but not pointless in this Europa League, because they've had one 0-0 draw, but it still sees them in 33rd place in the table out of 36. They are taking on Athletic Bilbao, who currently sit 8th, and have made a steady start to the campaign. They've not been as high-flying and free-scoring as most people would have expected with the likes of the Williams brothers in their ranks. They've only scored 4 goals so far. Ironically, for Ludogorets, they have Chow suspended, so Chow to him. He has got himself sent off in the 2-0 defeat to Anderlecht last time out. For Bilbao, we've spoken a lot about their injury issues in the previous match days. Their only actual missing player now is Unai Simon, their first-choice goalkeeper, but it's not really affected them not having him domestically or in this competition so far. To be fair to Ludogorets, they have not conceded a single goal since their defeat to Anderlecht, and Bilbao have only conceded 1 goal themselves since their victory last time out, but they have still drawn 2 of their last 3 games in La Liga. So again, momentum not really there for Bilbao, but on paper, they should be a much stronger side than Ludogorets. But given how low scoring they have been over the last few weeks, I'm only going to go for a 2-0 win to Bilbao. To be honest, it was a toss-up really for all of those on that left-hand side. The Frankfurt, the Michelin, the Bilbao, they were all sort of a toss-up for me between 1-0 and 2-0. But ultimately, I would still expect all of those sides to win. Next up, it is Nice taking on FCSB. And again, we have to talk about suspensions, because for Nice, they have got Rosario suspended. He was sent off in Nice's defeat to Ferencváros. For FC Twente, their goalkeeper, Unistal, got himself sent off prior to then them capitulating and losing to Lazio last time out. So both of these sides come into this game off the back of defeat. Both of these sides come into this game off the back of getting players suspended and then obviously losing. And the only real indicator I can give as to why Nice should win this, in my opinion, obviously they're at home, which gives them much more of an advantage anyway. But in the last couple of weeks, they've actually won against 2 of Ligue 1's Champions League sides. They were victorious against Monaco and against Brest in their last 2 Ligue 1 matches, which is a hell of a statement from them to go to the Champions League teams and beat them, 1 at home, 1 away. Coming up against this FC20 side that, like I say, they're not going to have their first choice goalkeeper available. They lost in the last round to Lazio. Still think it's going to be a tight one, but I've got to go for Nice here. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory to the home side. That then brings us to a proper mid to upper mid-table clash. It is Olympiacos taking on Rangers, 12th against 11th. Both sides with good wins last time out. We've already spoken about Rangers' 4-0 victory over FCFB. For Olympiacos, they went away and got themselves an away victory. I've not actually listed who it was against, but I know it was a difficult game for them. Olympiacos' home record right now is, I think, the best out of all the teams in the Europa League right now. They are unbeaten in their last 13 matches at home, which is an incredible achievement for them in all competitions. Both sides go into this game with injury concerns over some key players, whether or not any of them are going to be fit. A lot of them are listed as doubtful, and I hate it when my research just lists players as doubtful, because it's like, well, they could play, they could not play. Thanks for the information. But again, home record in favour of Olympiacos. Rangers did lose to Aberdeen a couple of weeks ago as well. I just think this is Olympiacos' game to lose, so I'm going to go for another 2-1 home win this time to the Greek side. And then finally, in terms of the early kickoffs on Thursday, we have got Union Saint-Gilloise, who currently sit in 29th in the table, taking on AS Roma of Italy, who currently sit in 19th. Neither of these sides have been very good so far in this competition. Roma are on 4 points, and in the last round, they only beat Dynamo Kiev, who are currently 35th in the table, 1-0. So that's not a great result for them. We've already spoken about how they lost to Elfsborg in Matchday 2. So far in this competition, they've had 3 games. They've scored 2 and conceded 2, which is really poor for a side of Roma's quality. They then went and backed up how they've performed in the Europa League by losing 5-1 to Fiorentina, and then losing again to Hellas Verona at the weekend in Serie A as well. They are way, way off it at the moment. The only problem is that Union themselves are on 1 point and only have 1 goal scored as well. And that 1 goal they did score was in a defeat to Fenerbahce. So both of these sides absolutely stinking up this Europa League at the moment. Makes it really, really hard to call. So I think the only realistic result I can go for is a draw. It's whether or not I go for 0-0 or 1-1. I've gone for 1-1 because I can't sit here and say neither of these sides are going to score. It's just going to be your classic, one team will nick it 1-0, or it's going to be 1-1. If I have to pick a side, I'd pick Roma, but again, really poor form on both of them. That is going to be it for the opening set of results or predictions for the Europa League. Take a last long look at them. As always, I'll have my little markers along the bottom so you can jump to any predictions throughout the course of this video. So let's get moving on to the 8 o'clock kickoffs on Thursday, where we have got 8 more matches for you. And, well, we start off in Holland, and the first 2 matches of the 8 o'clock kickoffs take place in Holland. And we start off with the most informed side in the competition right now. Ajax are unbeaten in their last 13 matches. They have won their last 6 in a row, including victories against PSV Eindhoven and Feyenoord. They sit 4th in the Europa League. They are absolutely flying. They seem to be back to their best. They're scoring goals for fun. They've scored something like 10 of 12 goals in their last 3 games in Holland. Meanwhile, Maccabi sit 24th without a point. Wait, I said that wrong. 34th, sorry, not 24th. They're 34th in the table without a point, and even with how poor they've played in the Europa League, they have then backed up their poor performances in this competition by losing their last 2 games domestically as well. They have Davida suspended, even though he doesn't normally start. They have a couple of injuries as well. I don't really think there's too much more I need to say about this one. Ajax are flying. Maccabi are stumbling. I can only really go for an Ajax win. The question just is by how many. I'm going to go for 4-0 to the Dutch side here. From one Dutch side that is absolutely soaring to another Dutch side that has completely fallen off a cliff. We now have AZ Alkmaar, who are themselves, they're the side in 24th, Maccabi were 34th. They won on match day 1, did AZ Alkmaar, but they lost on match day 2, they lost on match day 3, they haven't won a single game of their last 7 in all competitions. Meanwhile, Fenerbahce, under Jose Mourinho, are unbeaten in all of their last 7, including drawing with Manchester United in match day 3. AZ also have a bunch of injuries to key players. They now have Wolf suspended as well. To be honest, for Fenerbahce, this is just a case of right place, right time. Jose Mourinho, as Jose Mourinho does, has been moaning in the media this week, trying to get more eyes on Turkish football. And I'm sorry, Jose, you are right. Ain't nobody watching Turkish football. And to be honest, I don't think many are going to be watching this game as well. But for those of you that are, I think they are going to be backing a Jose Mourinho victory, because I'm going for 3-1 to Fenerbahce in this one. That then brings us to Dynamo Kiev taking on Ferencváros. For Dynamo, it is 35th in the table. They are pointless. They are goalless. And they're taking on a Ferencváros side who are 23rd after getting their first point of the campaign in that aforementioned victory to Nice on match day 3. To be fair, these two sides met in 2020, and on those occasions, Dynamo Kiev got the home victory, and it was a draw in Hungary. Unfortunately, times have changed since then, and now Dynamo Kiev, despite being the home side, will be playing this game in Hamburg. To be fair, even though they are pointless and goalless, Ferencváros are by far their easiest opponents they've come up against so far. So that does make it a little bit tougher to call, but I would expect the Hungarian champions to come out on top here still. I'm only going to go for 1-0. I think it's still going to be a tight affair. If there's going to be an opportunity for Kiev to get themselves some goals, this is their first choice. But again, goalless and pointless so far. I've got to go for Ferencváros here. Next up, we've got a fair few enticing matchups, it has to be said. First of those is Hoffenheim taking on LYON. 18th place Hoffenheim taking on 10th place LYON. Hoffenheim's form continues to be one of the most hit and miss runs of form in world football at the moment. They get some big wins against some difficult oppositions, but then lose to absolute stinkers. LYON, on the other hand, have had a very, very good start to their season, but it has stalled over the last couple of weeks. It's almost like that shock result to Besiktas that we already spoke about with the 30 shots and the 3xG has kind of derailed them a little bit because they've backed it up with back-to-back draws in Ligue 1 over the last couple of weeks as well. To be fair, bizarrely, these two sides actually met in the Champions League in 2018, and on both occasions they were draws as well. I was tempted to go for a draw, I really was, but again, I have to look at the form of the two sides. I still think LYON are playing better football. Hoffenheim, they are so hit and miss. It's just what Hoffenheim turns up on the night. And I can't trust them to perform at the level expected to beat a side that is as good as LYON are so far this season. So I'm going to go for a 3-2 victory. I expect it to be a high-scoring game. Both of these sides do score a lot of goals. Both of these sides do concede a lot of goals. I just think LYON are going to be the side that edge it. Next up, it is the league leaders, the runaway league leaders, arguably in Lazio, because not only are they 3 wins from 3, but they're also 3 points clear of Tottenham on goal difference as well. So fair play to them. They've been absolutely fantastic so far in this competition. They take on a Porto side that are on 4 points after losing, then drawing, then winning. So at least they've improved every single game. But, you know, is that cycle going to continue? We're going to go back from winning back down to losing again. Lazio are unbeaten in their last 14 matches at home. So they're playing some fantastic stuff in their home stadium. Porto are unbeaten in all of their last 8 games in all competitions and have won all of their last 5 matches in all competitions without conceding a single goal. So something's got to give here. This is going to be a really, really interesting match. But I have to back the side that are at the top of the table so far. I'm going to go for... Oh, no, I didn't. I went for a 1-1 draw. I thought I went for 2-1 Lazio. Interesting. Well, I guess we're sticking with it now. I've got to hold my hands up. That's what I went when I put all my thought process together. I really thought I went for 2-1 Lazio, though. But no, we're going for a 1-1 draw. That's the way it goes sometimes. I guess you've got to stick with both sides' unbeaten records. But no, I will stick with it. I always do these predictions the night before I record these videos. So I'm going for a 1-1 draw for Lazio Porto. Apologies if I've thrown anyone off with that one right there. But let's move swiftly on then to my club, Manchester United, who rather embarrassingly sit 21st in this Europa League, taking on a PAOK side who sit 30th with 1 point, who, to be honest, only have that 1 point due to a red card in their last game for their opponents, allowing them to get themselves a 2-goal comeback towards the end of this match. It's Ruud van Nistelrooy's first European game in charge of Manchester United before Ruben Amorim takes over next week. It's Shola Shorettire's early return to Old Trafford, one of Manchester United's youngsters who moved to PAOK in the summer. A bizarre move for them, but hey-ho, they get to return to Old Trafford straight away. Let's be honest. Manchester United should be winning this game. PAOK have been dire in this competition so far. Not to say Manchester United haven't been dire so far in this competition. It's 3 draws out of 3 for them. But PAOK are, on paper, the worst side that they have come up against. They're at home. They beat Leicester 4-2 last week at home. On paper, I would say this PAOK side probably isn't even as good as that Leicester reserve team. So Manchester United should definitely be coming out on top here. So I am going to go for a 4-1 victory to Manchester United. PAOK don't have many injury concerns to worry about. The only sort of high-profile injury that I saw on their list was Willian, you know, the old Brazilian that used to play for Chelsea, Arsenal and Fulham, etc. He's at PAOK as well now. He's injured. Obviously, Manchester United have all their injury issues as well, but, I mean, come on. If we don't win this game, best believe Thursday night's reaction is going to be a must-watch for all of you guys. 2 games to go then, and the penultimate one sees RFS taking on Anderlecht. The Latvian side currently sit 31st in the table. Anderlecht sit 3rd after being another side that have got 3 wins out of 3. That said, though, I would say that RFS have played very well, certainly in their last couple of games. They've been up against really tough opposition and have only really gone down after proving themselves quite hard to beat. They were able to get themselves a draw against, who is it? I can't remember which way around it was. I've got Galatasaray and Frankfurt as the 2 sides. I know they drew 1 and they only lost by 1 to the other. Whereas Anderlecht haven't really been playing the toughest opponents. It has to be said. They've been getting wins, but it's not been against difficult opponents. That said, they'll probably look at RFS as another side that isn't the toughest of opponents. But again, they've managed to pull themselves up. Some fairly decent performances against tough opposition in their last couple of games. But again, there's not many injury concerns for Anderlecht. They are missing Vertonghen, they are missing Thorgan Hazard, but it's not affected their performances so far in this competition. I'm still going to go for an Anderlecht win. I'm going to go for 2-1. But again, watch this space. RFS have been putting together half-decent performances on match day 2 and 3, and it could all culminate with a home victory against Anderlecht here. And then finally, the last game of the video sees another side that has drawn all of their opening matches in Victoria. Pilsen taking on Real Sociedad, who only sit 1 point above them with 4 themselves. Sociedad were actually one of the sides that Anderlecht did beat. So when I said Anderlecht haven't faced the hardest opposition, Sociedad was their sort of like one tough opponent. But I don't know. I just look at it. I look at Pilsen. They were able to get a draw against Frankfurt away. They then drew with Ludogorets. They then drew with PAOK. They were the side that had a player sent off, which allowed PAOK to make that comeback. And I think if they didn't have that red card, PAOK probably wouldn't have come back and Pilsen would be sitting here on a victory. That does mean that that player who was sent off, Dwen, he is suspended for this match. So it's a tough one. Sociedad were able to get themselves a really good momentum booster with an away win to Sevilla in La Liga last time out. But Pilsen are another side with a really, really good home record. They're unbeaten in all of their last 9 matches at home. So with that said, with Sociedad losing at home to Anderlecht in an earlier round, I'm not confident enough to give the Spanish side the result. And I think it would only be fair to give the draw specialists one more draw. So we're going for a 1-1 draw to round off today's video. Thank you very much for watching as always. Remember, if you have just jumped to this point in the video to check out all of the results, you can go to each individual match to see my write-ups on every single one along the bottom of your screen. Don't forget to let me know down in the comments section all of your thoughts on all of the matches taking place in the Europa League. Thank you very much for watching as always. Thank you very much for listening as always. We'll be doing this all over again tomorrow morning for the Europa Conference League as well. I will see you there.